Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about management and making decisions. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what stops managers and developers from making these small decisions that maybe be an oversight in the technical specification? That is a great question, and the short answer is uncertainty or a lack of confidence. That is exactly why. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the simple answer is that depending on your work processes and depending on the nature of the oversight in your technical specification, you may have a situation where even if it feels like the silliest, dumbest thing in the world, your manager cannot make the decision because it is an issue where either they have been explicitly told, or it's an area where they may not know enough, they don't feel like they can make a decision because they don't have the information right. Another one is that they may have a explicit work process with their manager or their peers within the management community or the manager department or management department, that basically that they need to check in. Like this is an issue that is cross-team type of thing, right? We're going to touch on that as well in just a moment, but that is definitely something that can happen. And then you have the possibility that they simply lack the, well, basically that they lack the influence to make decisions on their own behalf. They might just, but this hopefully is very rare. I have seen it. I have worked in companies that work this way, where they don't have they cannot make a silly little ad hoc decision because they are explicitly told that they're not allowed to. Like, it's not their job, if you will. So these sorts of things, and I mean, for a developer, you could, in theory, I mean, nobody's really going to stop you all that much. If, let's say for the sake of argument, that there's an oversight in your specification that states that where you need to figure out what the color of a button should be, or where a link should take you, or something like that, something that is fairly small. Now, you can take that decision, technically, if there is nothing specified. The problem is that when you do, you create a situation which is bad for you, and it's actually also bad for your manager. The reason is very simple, because if you have a systematic problem where there's oversight in your technical specification and you simply bridge them through making an ad hoc decision like that, if you're lucky, the problem that you are just, you're kind of winging it because that's what you're doing. It's a simple problem and you can just fix it. That's great. But the issue is that if it's not a simple problem, or if it's something where you make a decision where you basically shortcutted the decision-making chain or the process, well, then if it doesn't turn out well, then that's on your head. So what you're basically doing is that you are taking a risk on personal risk on behalf of the company, because your internal work process is so ineffective that you couldn't actually just talk to the person who's supposed to know this and supposed to tell you what they're actually ordering. So there's multiple layers of problems with this issue. I mean, one thing is like, wasn't this caught beforehand? As an example, why didn't we ask the right questions? Why didn't we have a collaboration between the technical department and management to actually not have this sort of oversight in the specification to start off with? And then you can push that question even further and actually get to the real answer to this, which is highly likely, as I was saying, that you have a very inefficient work process. And you can actually measure how effective your company is, like how productive and how agile, or whatever you want to call it, your department is, based on how long it takes you to get an answer to this question. Because in a perfect world, you will simply ask your manager, what color should this button be, or where should this link lead? And they will just say, it should go there or there, or it should be this color or whatever, right? If they have that like immediate response, that means that they have their fingers on the pulse of this project. They are in sync with where this project is going, they know the direction, they are empowered to be able to make quick decisions and stand by those decisions, and your team doesn't have any weird dependencies that makes it hard to do work. These are positive things, and they're only possible if, or rather, moving fast is only possible if you have this sort of setup. Now, on the other hand, if you work in an older organization where you might have a security team, a risk analysis team, a department for marketing and design, and like X, Y, and Z, like tons of these different departments, and your manager can't actually make this decision without scheduling all of these people to have an opinion, even about things that may be so silly. Guys, I have been in meetings where they have discussed, 5 department heads have discussed if we can put a static link on a web page. I'm serious. A static link that went to another page. Can we do this? Yes or no? And we couldn't really get to it felt like a risky thing. And this was even a link to a trusted third party, like a partner website. I'm serious. It all comes down to how your company is structured. How are you doing work? This is the problem. Even if you were a developer in that scenario, if you were to make a decision on your own, odds are that your manager will either question your decision, or you will actually have issues from the decision that you have just made. So it's not, I know that it feels weird, but you're actually damaging your entire workflow if you make these ad hoc decisions yourself. Unless it's something that that they are not going to have an opinion on. I mean, your manager is not going to have an opinion about if you use a for loop or a for each function, or if you use a constant variable or just a variable. These things don't matter at all. But what does matter are these experience things, these things such as user experience and security and not performance necessarily, but definitely at the very least security and user experience. These things which a manager can have an opinion on will definitely matter, even if it feels like a silly thing. So I will argue that instead of getting frustrated with this work process, try your best to include your manager in such, and make sure that you're pushing towards this idea that unless we change something with our work process so that our manager is actually empowered enough to make decisions on the fly and actually just be able to move in an agile fashion, then things are going to slow down. Because you cannot have a situation where literally the manager can just, because it gives them deniability, because basically, guys, if you make the decision, you are taking a risk. You personally are taking the risk, because your manager can just point at you and say, hey, you know what? No, I didn't tell them to do this. They just did it. And then all of a sudden it's you who's in hot water if something goes bad. It's a joint responsibility. You are supposed to be a team. So what I want you to take away from this is that the reason why silly little mistakes in the specification can be delayed quite a lot, and why managers and developers may not be able to make a quick decision on these sorts of things, is one part because they might just lack the confidence to do so. Like, they may have a work process where they, depending on the nature of the problem, where they need to involve different section heads and everybody needs to have an opinion on this thing, or they are actually explicitly told, like, this is a sensitive type of topic. They may not have enough information to make a decision. They might need to kick it up even higher to somebody who has that authority to actually make the decision. There's tons of these little things that may come in the way. And you can fairly accurately, I will argue, measure how effective your company is at delivering software through how quickly you get a resolution to these sorts of oversights. If you measure your time in maybe minutes, that's a very good thing. If you measure it in several days or weeks, that's a really bad thing, because if you have a tiny decision that needs to be made, but you have to involve like 5 different managers from different departments to get a decision on that thing, you will never ever be able to move all that quickly. It's not possible unless, as some developers feel, they make the decision themselves. But that's also a problem, because then you're basically disrupting the work process, and you're actually excluding your manager from taking ownership of the product that they're supposed to, because they're being paid to do this. They're paid to take this ownership, and you're basically just putting them in a situation where they have plausible deniability. It's very convenient in many ways for them to be able to say that, oh no, if something goes wrong, you can simply point at the developers. So I argue, you think that you're helping, but you're actually not helping. You're just allowing the problem to continue existing. So don't do that. Have a great day.